Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1025 to 1026 for the 14th and 15th of December. This will also include all the latest changes in terms of the front line for the 20s or for the 15th of December. So it is the most updated information. And my mic broke again. This is the old mic, and the handle actually, like the handle dropped out of that. Like the screw just broke. So yeah, my mic troubles continues. So we're gonna go on. We're gonna start off with some major news. Well, we haven't seen a Ukrainian jet getting shot down for a long time. MiG-29 was shot down over Ukraine, according to the Russian Defense Ministry on the 15th December report. So this MiG-29 was shot down by air defense. So I believe that is probably due to some attempted bomb run, and then it got shot down. Maybe the pilot made a small mistake, and then got targeted by the air defense system. So and then we go into the Kursk front. At Kursk front, there's some strategic change. The Russians have launched an attack over the past 2 days over in this northern flank, around the Ruskoye Poroshnoi and the Cherkasskoye Poroshnoi region. So in this northern flank, the Russian forces have launched attack in these regions, and we have frontline changes, geolocation of the alleged North Korean troops, which is most likely just Russian troops, mass infantry, walking in through the open ground towards the forest. So that's what it is. There is still fighting in the northern flank over Malaya Lok there, as well as the Krolenkoye, where the Russians are trying to retake this entire chain of forest body. So that's the northern flank. And if we go into the western flank, which I'm going to move the arrows. So yeah, probably that's what. The Russians are still pushing in the region of Leonidovo, Viktorovka, Lebedevka, Svetliklovo, as well as Nikolaevo Darino. The Russians raised the flag over at Nizhny Klin, confirmed the Russian capture at Nizhny Klin. The strategic situation over on this western flank, pretty much there's no change. Pretty much it's the same, and it's mainly that the beginning of an offensive in this major direction. So nearby Martinovka, this part of the eastern flank, the Russians are attacking in the Martinovka region, and over in the southern flank where the main breakthrough was, the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned Krylovka as well as Guevo. So these two locations is mentioned, and geolocation, I think this is a wrong color. So the Russians are using Iskandars to hit Ukrainian positions defending over the Guevo side. So the Russians are definitely getting a bit more and more serious. And Putin over the past 24 hours or 48 hours declared that they are winning at all fronts in the Ukraine war. So yeah, that's the word pop out, whereas on the Ukrainian side is talking about North Koreans, which there is actually until now no definitive evidence of North Korean troops fighting in Kursk region. So over in the Kharkiv front, there is fighting reported at Oleksandrivka, and shelling is reported at Zolokiv. So that's pretty far. It's probably yet another incursion, just distractions. Fighting is reported at Vysoha Yaruha and Lipsy. So the situation over in the Kozacha Lopan front pretty much is still a harassment type of attack. There is no clear indication that the Russians have invaded in a way that they are going to conquer ground. Tentatively, not yet. But Medvedev, which is the second most powerful person in Russia after Putin, have mentioned that if you check the debate telegram, you probably will see it, that he said that there is always a possibility that the Russians may conquer more grounds in Ukraine. So fighting is reported at Taike, Voschansk, as well as the new place just across the river at Vurovka at Prilipka. So Prilipka was mentioned for the first time by the Russian Defense Ministry on the 16th. I think this probably wrong date. This probably should be 15th. So So this is the first time Prilipka was mentioned. I'm not sure if this is just shelling or is this Russians are crossing the Siversky Donetsk River to attack this position. If it's an attack, then it would be a very surprising thing to do, because that would definitely change the entire posture in this sector. So that's all from the Kharkiv front. Over in the Voroshina front, there is updates regarding this area here. Russian Defense Ministry mentioned the attack, or at least shelling, of Voroshina and Kukivka. Kukivka is the first time that we see this name mentioned. And then the Ukrainian mapping have mapped that the Russian forces have entered into the south of Voroshina. So I'm going to zoom in. So in the southern district of Brezhnev is allegedly now under Russian control. The Russians have allegedly crossed the Oskil River, and it is important to note that the temperature is below zero. The river are frozen. It is easy for the Russian troops to just cross the river to attack into Ukrainian positions. And they have allegedly entered into Brezhnev. However, interestingly, the pro-Russian source, Ryba, questioned whether this have happened at all. They claim that the entire situation over at Novosilka did not even come out with anything. Like they say that not a single evidence of Russian presence or prisoner of war, or maybe anything that left behind by the Russians, was actually shown at Novosilka. So they now put very strong questions regarding this attack from the Masitivka direction. This Masitivka. Towards into Voroshina, this crossing, they have strong doubts about this situation. In my opinion, I think the Ukrainian information is reliable in this sense, because usually for this kind of thing tends to not make things up. So let's watch and see how this goes. Over in the Kupiansk front, there is fighting reported at Kupiansk, but that's all. There's no clear information about what is it about. Over in the Pischany front, at the Pischany front, there is fighting reported at Khrushchevka, Kolesnikivka. Ukrainians are attacking at Kolesnikivka and allegedly captured the forest in the northwest of Kolesnikivka. Fighting is reported at Kryakivka, Zarizove, and Lozova. Particularly at Lozova, there is a major frontline change in this sector. With so we're going to zoom in. Lozova is now allegedly on the verge of a pincer, with the Russian forces capturing major grounds in the north, closing in from the east, as well as taking positions in the south. So there is a possibility that the Russians could now pincer Lozova in the two-pronged attack, even three-pronged attack, and push the Ukrainians out of Lozova. And this incursion is not just this. It's a lot more than this. If you zoom out, you can see that the Russians actually went all the way to this lake. It's called the Spodivska Sadibas Lake. So the Russians actually advanced greatly in the south of Lozova, and it looks like this is just the beginning of a major collapse, because the Russian Defense Ministry, surprisingly, on the 15th of December, which is yesterday, announced the capture of Zeleny High. There is no mapping to reference this capture, which means that the actual advance by the Russians in this sector might actually be much bigger than expected. So if you zoom out a bit, this is the Borova front. So the Russian front line tentatively looks like this. However, there is a possibility that the Russians may actually have taken Zeleny High, if the Russians are to be trusted, and then which means that the next fighting is going to be at Borisivka and Andriivka, and they will be pretty much wrong button, just around 9 to 10 kilometers away from Borova, which is actually pretty worrisome development for the Ukrainians. So we will definitely have to continue to watch. Borova was mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry in their report on the 15th, talking about some shelling in that region. So nearby, over in the rest of this front line in this area here, in the northern part of the Svetove front, there is fighting reported at Kopanki, Peshkovkrevneve, Nadia, towards Novosilka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Fighting at Sverdoklibove and Novosilka. So there is a massive intensifying operation in this sector, seems to be related to the Borova offensive, where the Russian forces have this massive advance over in the Lozova and the Zeleny High region. So this offensive may actually be one big offensive where the Russians are making the massive arrow push towards Borova. So this is something very, very important. This is the Borova offensive. So let's watch and see how far this will actually go. We move further south. In the southern part of the Svetopy front, there is fighting reported at Kharkivka and Makiivka. This is pretty much the same situation as per previously. So we move to the south. Over in the Crimea front, there is only fighting reported at Terny and the Siberiansky Forestry. So nothing much in this area here. FPV drone strike on the APC in Zarechny, so nothing particularly special about that. Over in the Sivers front, there is also seems to be a major offensive beginning. It looks like the Russians may have started yet another attempt for the Sivers offensive. Fighting is reported at Bilohorivka, Verkhomokyamsky, towards Sivers, and Zvenivka. So these are the usual, I would say, nothing special. But the Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned Sperne, Berestove on the 14th report. And then on the 15th report, they mentioned Ivano-Darivka and Vimka. So they have expanded into 15th, which means that if this is the first on the 14th and then this is on the 15th, there is this trending, from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry report, because you can't go reach Ivano-Darivka without Sperne, you can't reach Vimka without Berestove. So which means that they are acknowledging that there is similarly some kind of offensive operation by the Russian forces in the direction of Sivers in the south, from the southeast. So there is this attack coming in from the southeast, and is something to watch as well. It's not just the Borova, it's also the Sivers. So, and of course, with this, on top of that, we have the Kursk, where the Russians have launched a new offensive in the Cherkasskoye Parashnoye direction, which is, and the Ruskoye Parashnoye direction. This like they're both in the same part of the northern flank in the Kursk front. We are talking about 3 entirely new offensive operations by the Russian forces all at the same time, launching all at the same time. So which definitely going to draw into the pro-Ukrainian narrative that the Russians are trying to achieve something before Trump get inaugurated or before their Christmas. So all sort of conspiracy theories now coming up. Over at Bakhmut front, there is fighting reported in Chasivya, with the Ukrainian mapping, Deep State UA mapping a bit more advanced by the Russian forces just outside of the forest in the northern part of Chasivya. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces just on the edge of the front line pretty much shows that there is fighting in this region here. So otherwise, the Stuposhki was mentioned, I believe. Did I forget to change that? 19347. So I think the update disappeared. So 19347. So there is I think maybe it's a 14. So or 15. I think it's 15. So let me update this. So this is also how I update. Everything is manual. 15. Change the color. So so this is 15. Yeah. So there is fighting report as to Tuposhki as well. That's surprising because just now I remember updating this, but it disappeared. So, but Bakhmut front, don't expect too much from it. There's usually nothing going to happen at Bakhmut. Over in the Toretsk front, Russian forces continue to do their offensive in Toretsk with the new advance in the north of Toretsk, with the Russian forces expanding their control north of the two hills. Fighting is reported within Toretsk continuingly and towards Skibinivka and Novopaske, which is also known as Petrivka previously. Somehow the Google Map just changed the name to Novopaske for no reason, and the Ukrainians themselves would still call them Petrivka. So yeah, I do not know what's the deal with the Google Maps, but but you can see that the Russian word or the Ukrainian wording is still Novo Spaske. So Yeah, so it is in Ukraine as well, so no, it's weird. Over in the Pokrov front, in the Minograd sector, fighting is reported over in Mariupolka. So I think I should zoom out a bit. Yeah, this is a bit too zoom in. So Mariupolka, Promin, Mykolaiv, and towards Minograd. So that's the Minograd front. Nothing is expected to change around here because this is a static front line. Because yeah, this is just way too well reinforced for the Ukrainians at this moment because the major city of Minograd is there. And then you have over in the Pokrov sector, we have fighting reported over Lysivka, Tachansky, Zeleny, Virozhenia, Shevchenko, Pischany, Novopustinka, as well as Novotroitsky. So there's a lot of places. Ukrainian forces are counterattacking over at Shevchenko. And they have alleged to have captured some grounds, not alleged, confirmed, due to geolocation of Ukrainian forces on the western part of Shevchenko, taking back some of the grounds. Russian forces in the south of the Chansky have made some progress, capturing some ground and closing in from the south of the Chansky. So this front line, definitely the Russians' aim is to straighten the front line around the south of Pokrov, putting pressure on the city itself as they continue to flank towards the on the western side, cutting off the highway. So that's the main gist of the operation over in the Pokrov front. And then we move further south, over in the Ukrainka region or the Pushkine region. Russian Defense Ministry in their yesterday's SITREP reported that they have captured Pushkine, which we have already declared to be the case on the 13th. Russian forces also geolocated on the west of Ukrainka, confirming the Russian advancing towards Ukrainka right now. And fighting is reported at Novo-Olenivka and Novo-Yelizavetivka. So this is a flanking operation to flank into the north or the rear position of Ukrainka, as the main push is coming towards from the east. Ukraine forces on the highway are getting hit by probably FPV drone as well. Yes, FPV drone in the north of Novo-Olenivka. So that's all from this region here. During the DPA open mic over the past 24 hours, we have a long discussion. We talk about Ukraine, and we did talk about seemingly there's a huge reduction of fabbings, the Russian airstrikes, and in fact I also highlight that there's also a much reduced amount of Russian TOS-1A strike, also the GRAD multiple launch rocket system strikes. Mostly now we see are just FPV drone strikes for almost all the case. So I wonder if warfare is changing, that is rendering some type of artillery more and more irrelevant, or maybe the situation on the ground, the Ukrainians just don't have enough targets for the Russians to hit. They don't have the appropriate targets to even command a Lancet. When is the last time you saw a Lancet video? So this is just something to take note of. So over in the northern part of Kurakove region or Kurakove front, there is fighting reported at Zoria. Geolocation of Russian forces at Zoria, nothing special about that. Fighting is reported at Sonsivka, Stary Terny, as well as to Dashny. So that's the northern part of the front line. Now this salient here, or the bulge here, is unknown at this moment. Over in the Kurakove, the battle of Kurakove itself, Russian forces expanded control, capturing almost the entirety of the high-rise zone. Fighting continues fiercely over in Kurakove. So that's the current situation in Kurakove. Nothing new, particularly over here. Over in the Uzbenivka front, we have reported previously of the entire collapse of the Uzbenivka sector. This is the geolocation that invalidates the Ukrainian claims. So this should actually be a different color as well. Yeah, but yeah, never mind. So the Russian Defense Ministry in today's situation report announced the capture of Yelizavetivka, which is over here. So it is still quite far away from where the front line tentatively could be. So the Russians are definitely still doing clearing operations, all of these areas here that the Ukrainians have withdrawn away from. So I think the announcement of the capture is going to take a bit of time. So, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 14th, they still mentioned about the fighting at Yelizaveta, but tentatively, this not to be the case anymore. The fighting is now being mentioned over at Hanivka, Zeleny High, Trudove, in Konstantinopolsky, as well as at Uspenivka. And there is geolocation of Russian forces in the north and the south of Uspenivka, signaling the Russians' attack or capture of the fortifications that is protecting Uspenivka on both flanks. So the pressure is definitely now increasing on the Ukrainians, that the Russians are now biting down on Uspenivka. And despite all these heavy entrenchments all around Uspenivka, it looks like the abandonment of Uspenivka is about to be coming soon. I don't think this is a holdable position. I think the situation is hopeless at this moment. A lot of bad news coming out, and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry also put out a statement saying that all these prisoners or POWs or all these sort of surrendered Ukrainian soldiers, being featured on the Russian media or the Russian Defense Ministry, talking about all this low morale stuff. They say these are just propaganda, and these people are just saying things that they are being forced to under the threat of violence. So maybe that's true. Over in the Constantinople sector, Russian forces have advanced in Sukiali and Zelenivka, and the Russian forces have expanded an attack in these two regions. It looked most likely this entire region here is already fallen to the Russians, and the Russians are pushing towards Roslav. So that's all from the Constantinople sector. The Russians are, as I mentioned before, Constantinople is a major target in this area here. For this front line, this sector, Constantinople is the objective, because with Constantinople you cut off reinforcement and retreat or resupply to Korakhove, and you cut off V.Novosilka as well from the rest of the front line over in this sector. Basically, it is a death knell for this entire region if Constantinople is taken. So no, and of course the neighboring town of Andreevka. So we move on to the V.Novosilka sector. Over at V.Novosilka, we have geolocation of supposedly MLRS getting destroyed by the FPV drone south of Behati. Why is it so near to the front line? I can't tell. So over at V.Novosilka sector, strategically, we have, I think, reported at Rozdony, Novi Koma, V.Novosilka, Bremivka, Neshkushny, Starozeve, Makarivka, Novosilka, Zeleny Pole, as well as Temerivka. And you can see this is one operation, this is yet another operation, this is on its own, this is on its own. And yeah, so there is major operations by the Russians in these various directions. So this is something to note. And some of the drama is that the Ukrainians previously claimed that they have retaken Novi Koma, which is not acknowledged by the Russian side. Geolocation is now confirmed that the Russians are present within Novi Koma and on the verge of full capture of Novi Koma. So, like I mentioned previously, the capture of Novi Koma cut off the crossing over at Novo Ocheritobate, which means that the Ukrainians were no longer able to retreat northward. So then the only way of retreat for the Ukrainians over at V.Novosilka is to cross the river to towards Vremivka and retreat from here. But the problem with Vremivka right now is that the other major offensive operations by the Russians, they are already very close to the highway over at Vremivka. They are pushing towards Nekushny at this moment, and with this Russian front line getting so close, this road is potentially now already under fire control by the Russians, and the Ukrainians can only retreat down this road. But the Russians could potentially push up and cut off the road. So the situation here is just terrible. It's horrible for the Ukrainians. Everywhere is hell. Everywhere is problems. There's just endless problem to solve. And in Starozove is very interesting. According to the Ukrainian mapping, they seem to suggest that the Russians have crossed the river in the south of Starozove across the Makriali River and have allegedly entered into Starozove itself. and the Russians are already closing down from the north. So this, if the Russians capture Sterizove, then everything south of Sterizove means nothing. It no longer means anything because Makarivka will be essentially encircled by the Russian forces. Nekushne will be next pretty soon. So the Ukrainians will have to make a very tough decision right now should they retreat. This crossing over here is the only lifeline. So the Ukrainians have to withdraw, or they get stuck and get operationally encircled if the Russians able to go up and cut off the road. So that's the developing situation over the V.Novosilka sector. And this is, again, we are not even talking about all the other offensive, the new operations, at Borova, at Kursk, and over at the Voroshina region. Is just a lot of chaos everywhere. So over in the Zaporizhia front, we have shelling reported at Novopalivka. Fighting is reported at Novoandreevka and Malatomashka. So generally, this is nothing much. There's some frontline change over along the highway towards Orikhiv. Not very significant if you ask me. So that's all from the Zaporizhia front. And over the Kherson front, we have nothing much, only shelling at Antonivka and some reported fighting in the Dnipro direction, but it's not important per se. So anyway, that's about it. So this is the situation report for the past 2 days, in fact, up to this point. Just that though, yeah, this is basically the latest information. Just that I don't talk about the reports, the situation report from the Ukrainians or the Russians that came out on today, which is the 16th. But generally, those are all strategic reports. In terms of tactical situation, the geolocation, everything, this is the latest information. So anyway, thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe. So for those that did not catch in previous videos, I just moved house. So I'm still settling in. A lot of things to do. So my videos, my reporting, my time have scheduled for mapping and everything is just a big mess right now. So as things move on, as I settle down, I think things will be more clearer, more I will be able to spend more time on the mapping, reporting, and the creation of the videos. So yeah, then I'll be probably able to do more and tell more stories of what the hell is happening. Because there's so much to talk about, but yeah, I can only do the bare minimum right now, which is the SITREP. Anyway, thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.